Greetings. I am Master Scribe Gren Therik, a truth keeper of Vyra's historical archive. I have been tasked with documenting the actions of those who've returned from Sanctus, keeping record of both good, the bad, and the gray in between. My records are based on various first-hand accounts and personal hypotheses, and should be viewed as such to those who question. I have chosen to begin this deep undertaking by covering the most recent events that have overtaken the realm, with a magnified focus on what's become known as the Battle for Vyra. Some would tell you this was the battle that never was, or in grand scale, the blood that was shed was few. But it's not the battle that impacted the many, but the actions of the many that have become the battle cry of the few. I'll begin with the group that entered through the portal from Sanctus. My sources have told me they were known during their time on Sanctus as a poisonous, unsavory band. They pillaged, raided, murdered, and took without remorse. Very few could stand against them, but there was one who did. A being of great strength, who is still unknown, stripped the group of their power and all they had attained. Wandering and loathing in their anger, the band came upon a portal. The portal to Vyra. While the time they came through the portal has not been made public knowledge, we know the small band of raiders made their way into Vyra nonetheless. They arrived with nothing but the clothes on their backs. But this did not last. Through means unknown, they quickly gained knowledge in the realm, acquiring unnatural strength not seen before by the rest of the population. Some say it was a dark pact with an unknown ancient. Others say they reached out into the void, connecting with the others. I believe there's something more nefarious, darker, that took place. I'll explain my theory in my next report. If there's anything I can be certain of in my time in Vyra, it's that this land holds both light and life. The Riverlands itself is a sight to behold, mountain peaks as high as the clouds and forests as perfect as the warmth of a noonday sun. But to every light there is a shadow, and to every dark corner, there's evil lying in the wait. And sometimes, that evil is just waiting for the right person to find it. In their rage and malice against the being that took their strength, the vicious warband searched for a means of great power. To lash out in such horrific fashion, they needed devastating strength, and they needed it quickly. According to a Linehold guard who was manning the North Tower during the Second Watch, 4 figures, with cloaks as dark as night, moved to the Linehold's archives. But as quickly as he had seen them, they were gone. Little did he know what was to happen inside. The warband, using the shadows, made their way to the archive in search of something, anything that could give them what they sought. But even amongst the ancient texts, nothing could be found except for one book, one tome. Buried under the dark corners of the archive, deep beneath layers of dust and books, a black tome was found. It had no name, no engravings to mark its identity, save for one. On the binding, a symbol as red as blood had been carved into the dark leather. The tome's edges frayed from the knife that had so violently etched the engraving. Like tendrils from an arc of lightning, the symbol reached out unnaturally, covering the tome, as if to consume the large tome itself. It was here the seed to their power was planted. Gathering around the tome, covered by their dark cloaks, they opened it. Tribal etchings and unknown runes filled the pages. There were pictures depicting a realm under their feet, an entire civilization lost to time. The rest was unreadable, save for one page. Within the tome, the group discovered an ancient ritual, one of darkness and of blood. It detailed how, at the sacrifice of an innocent, one could draw upon the very essence of Vyra, and through exploitation of blood magic, infuse themselves with unrivaled ferocity and strength, acquiring in an instant what would take 1 year to attain. But to complete the ritual, they would need 3 things: a full moon, which they had, an innocent life, and to complete the ritual on the north face of the mountainous graveyard, Grave Peak. As silent as death, the warband snuck out of the archive, leaving Lionhold and making their way north. Along the way, they encountered a traveler on a caravan, who was hoping to arrive at their destination unnoticed due to the nightly hour. Burning his caravan, the traveler was bound, gagged, and thrown over the back of his own horse that had led his caravan moments before. Not much else is known about what happened that night, but northern Halcyon patrols documented a ghastly red hue coming from the northern mountains, with flashes of lightning reaching out to the sky. What emerged the following morning from Grave Peak were no longer men, but warriors of shadow. Their very robes had become tattered, burned at the edges, and smelling of dark magics. They had succeeded in their exploitation. In their tainted strength, the raiders began their short but brutal campaign across Vyra. They would slaughter countless innocents. They spared their blade for no one, not even the women or the children. A Winstead clerk even reported a great slaughtering at the city Ember Shrine, the screams of death carrying on the breeze to those in the vicinity. But as their attacks rose in brutality, so did their voice. The warband cried aloud with threats, promises of action to those who'd stand in their way. And it was here, where just as quickly as their violent campaign had begun, Vyra would see it end, at the hands of the Great Houses, no less. I'll share further in my next report. The warband's campaign across Vyra saw the blood of hundreds spilt, and while their actions seemed sporadic, sources tell me it did not take long for them to cross the Great Houses. In their violence, they began to murder those of the larger, more established Great Houses of Vyra. They attacked those of the Revis Order, continued in open skirmishes with the cartel of Chaos and Lace, and finally committed a brazen act upon the Black Talon Trading Company, wiping out 3 of their caravans that moved secretly in the night. This could not stand. On the night of a great thunderstorm, on the northern outskirts of New Ayla, the triumvirate of the Black Talon Trading Company met privately within their camp. As they spoke, a spy, returning from their station in the north, arrived with a sealed missive. Within, the triumvirate found a call to war, the other great houses offering an alliance of vengeance and blood against those who so viciously came against them, promising a quick end to their tainted power. Though I do not know what came after, the following morning revealed all of the great houses' reply. The valiant Grey Sentinels, the mighty dwarves of Dunehold, the warriors of Chaos and Lace, and those of the Black Talon gathered at the western borders of Halcyon. As more of the great houses amassed, the cries of battle and death could be heard from the south, violent screams carrying on the wind. As Black Talon investigated, they found more of their arriving forces had fallen. Enraged, they quickly sent out the Rangers, finding a few of the warband's warriors who had entered the realm. But something was different. In their fear of the great houses amassing against them, and in their great cowardice, the tainted warriors had forsaken their banners, burned their robes, and replaced them with commoner clothing. They had tried to leave the area unnoticed, but in the process had met with a few of the Black Talon that were arriving. Returning to the mighty armies, the horns of all the great houses sounded, their leaders roaring speeches to their warriors. Great shouts arose. The hunt for the rest of the warband had begun. Vyra shook. The hooves of vengeance stormed from Halcyon, and what had become known as the Army of Vyra, swept like a wave across the western plains, bellowing roars of fury in their wake. But they would never find their quarry. As it would turn out, the tainted warriors in fact had made off in secret, their disloyalty even to their own cause giving them the cover of anonymity, for they were hiding in the ruins to the east, plotting their next move. Although the tainted warband had survived the encounter, they had enraged the entirety of Vyra. Since that day, rumors circulate that even their very leader forsook the warband, choosing a different life, one of peace and solitude. Spies also say the rest of the warband fragmented into something else entirely. But to those names, who so defiantly murdered countless innocents, who in dark blood magics gained unrivaled, tainted power, they are now hunted. the houses of Vyra promising no quarter to the remaining members. Though it remains a grim recounting, the story of the Battle for Vyra still remains in conversations across campfires and taverns to this day. How so few could come against so many, and in their cowardice, fall to nothingness. As it is my station, I will keep my ears to the wind, my hand to the quill, and will update you further if anything comes of this.